This meeting is
Hello, welcome to another episode of the G.I. Joe New News Review. I am glad to be here with my special guest, the executive officer of Assembly Required, with the president being Mr. Brian Sauer. His right hand man, Travis Weber, is with us.
Hello, everyone.
So we just got back, or we just got finished, I should say, with Assembly Required a couple of days ago. I think we are recuperated enough to do this interview, right, Travis?
I can walk and sit down without pain again. So, yeah, I think we're doing all right.
This show has really latched on to my soul, really. I I was brought to the show last year. A friend of mine that lives really close to me, Bill Leach, asked
Yeah.
me to go. He says, if you come to the show, it's addicting and you will not want to quit it. And that is the truth.
Well, we love to hear that. That's what we strive for. We've always in the past said, when people talk about coming to Des Moines, Iowa, of all places, which for us it's home, so we take maybe just a little bit of offense to that. But we understand we're a flyover state. We're not a destination. We're kind of hard to get to from the corners and the coasts. But we've always said, give us one chance. Come out one time. And if you don't like it, hey, no problem. But we have yet to really hear someone say, it wasn't worth the trip and we hated it. Most of the people that come out once, they get hooked. And it's not because of Des Moines or us or what we do. It's the people that have gathered there. It's the friendships. It's the camaraderie that we really try to foster as best we can.
And you really have. I don't think I heard a bad thing said about the show this year or last year. Even the people that say it's difficult to fly there, they make it. They arrange it. They get there somehow. I've seen people carpool. I've seen people walk. I've seen people take trains. I've seen people fly. Maybe not the walk, but I don't know. But there's maybe, but we all get there somehow, and when we're there, there's nothing else. It's just AR. It's just our brothers. I heard it coined this week as kind of like a one of those groups that the Flintstones went to. What was the group that the Flintstones?
Oh, yeah, the water buffaloes.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. We're
Yeah,
kind of like the water buffaloes, but with GI Joe water buffaloes. It's funny
yeah.
because that's what it feels like.
And we're glad because that's really what the original intention was. Brian Sauer and Steve Kelting started this over 10 years ago, and they met in a coffee shop, and they decided, hey, we're going to the big GI Joe conventions. What if we tried to do something in Des Moines? And what's funny is I'm old school. I go back to the early 90s and the bulletin board days, and my first GI Joe outside of being childhood connections as an adult was with Indiana and Ohio guys, and I would have to go out to Ohio to go to a meetup, just a local meetup. And I actually didn't meet Steve and Brian until the JoeCon in Indianapolis, of all places, that we were linked up. And so then I found out, holy smokes, there's other GI Joe fans in Iowa, and it kind of rolled from there. Brian and Steve started things out at Jay's Comic Shop, his original shop, which I don't know if you've been to that one or not. That was the one downtown. And they had it in one of his game rooms in the back for the first couple of years. Then it moved into the Des Moines Library, which is a really fun copper-sided building. It's kind of neat. But one of the things Brian has really tried to do is identify the show with Des Moines. Because as much as we love G.I. Joe, we really love Iowa and Des Moines too and want to show it off. But the idea was to take all the things we loved about the JoeCons, and honestly, toys and all that's fun, but it was meeting with our friends. And we wanted to make an experience that catered to that as much as possible, to make things easy for people to come in, to have a good time, to hang out during the show, after the show, in between the shows, whenever, to be fun. So that was one of the reasons we're very intentional about things like location, hotels, and even the venues. All goes in to facilitate that idea of, like you said, the water buffaloes. We want it to have that feel of maybe like a fraternal order, but open. This isn't a secret society. This isn't closed off. One of the most enjoyable aspects of the show every year for us is the new people that show up. And it's like every year we get the guys coming up. I had no idea. This show is so much fun. The people are so great. I'm going to make sure I try to come back. And, every year things come up and maybe you can't make it. But most of the time we hear people, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to make it and largely that comes down to the relationships and the friendships that you make when you're at a show like this.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. There was a lot of folks that I had never met. Maybe I was in the same circles with, but I didn't meet until I went to AR. Obviously, through your experiences in life, you're always meeting new people and having new experiences and things like that. And you want those experiences to be a positive experience. You want them to be meaningful in your life. No one wants to remember the negatives or the disappointing things in their life. They want to remember the positive experiences. And this is definitely a positive experience, both years that I've been and both years that I've met new people and enjoyed meeting those new people and yourself. I would never have met you hadn't I not gone last year. And
it's great. I'm the same way. I mean, I'm kind of online and on Facebook, and I said I go back to the old message board days when those disappeared. Life kind of moves on, and you're right. I know screen names from the old board days, and the code names we went by and things like that. And now it's, there's a name on Facebook and he's a friend of a friend of a friend, and you make the connections. But finally getting to meet people face to face it's different, because then there's no barrier between you through a screen or you're limited to 180 characters or whatever it is. You can actually talk face to face and share a meal, share a drink, whatever it might be, or just go around looking at stupid little plastic men, and it's fun.
And that is one of the most important things to me, is the talking. And we talk sometimes till 3, 4, and some of the guys didn't get to their hotel rooms till 6 a.m. Adam Smolsky, Jason Morrell. I was astonished. I was like, God bless you guys. I have to have at least 5 hours. If I don't, I'm pretty angry or grouchy or whatever.
Yeah, I remember. It's funny. You said Friday morning, we're getting up and going to the venue about 6 a.m. to start set up and open things up. And there's a group of them down in the lobby, and I'm saying, all right, are you guys getting up or are you just going down? I said, yeah, we're working our way up to our rooms to go to bed. And I'm like, I'm too old to do that anymore. But those of you that enjoy that, hey, that's great. That's part of the experience.
It is. I tried to do the best I could. I think that the longest I could stay up this time was 3. I think last time I did stay up to 4 or 5 a couple of the days, but this year I couldn't do it. There was just too much weighing my head down towards my pillow.
Yeah.
You guys have been working this show now, or working to expand the show and get the show into more eyes and the view of the show for over 11 years. This is the 11th year, I believe.
Yeah, well, it'd be 12 years. We didn't have a show during COVID, the COVID year. So this is actually, 12 years. This will be the 11th show, not counting the 2 online armor shows. So if you count those in, this is actually the 13th event that we've put on. So yeah, it's been a while. We've been doing this. Like I said, I didn't come on till year 3. So Brian's been at this a much longer, and Steve also. So.
And Brian, that's an interesting thing that you bring Brian up, because I've been to plenty of conventions. I've been doing conventions since I was a little kid back in the 80s. And I've been to comic shows, Star Wars shows, Star Trek shows, you name it. I've been to a convention for it. And when I discovered the GI Joe Con back in 2010, it completely changed my life. But besides that, Brian Sauer is not a guy that just runs a show or creates a show or organizes a show, whatever adjective you want to use.
Yeah.
The man is an artist in many
Mhm.
different facets. He's a graphic designer. He's a swell friend. If you need someone to talk to, he'll talk to.
Yeah.
That kind of influence, that kind of person having a show, it's not the same thing as Joe Con, Joe Fest, Toyland,
Yeah.
what have you. It's kind of like having, I hate to say the word, like an uncle or something like that.
I do think, Brian, what is unique and at the heart of Assembly Required is Brian's love, not just for the property, which there's a deep love of GI Joe, and especially when you get into the art, some of the marketing, the design work, the comic. I mean, obviously he's an artist, so that appeals to him. But he genuinely loves not just the product, but the community. I mean, Steve and him, when they first sat down and decided to maybe try something, it was a little bit of, hey, these are things we see at other conventions that we think we could improve upon and do maybe a different way. And especially when you look at some of the signage and programs and artwork, that's so in Brian's wheelhouse that it almost came naturally to him. And then putting on a show, it was the idea, let's focus on the fan experience, not so much on selling merchandise, although that's something we have to do to help pay the bills. But what do people want? What does the collector want when they come in? And then looking beyond that, how do we cater to families and kids and new fans and old fans, and try to get as many people involved in the experience of GI Joe? And more to the point, how do we get them into the community? How, if you want to boil it down to the bare essence of it, is how do we get more friends? You know, how do we get more people that will be excited about the things that excite us? And from that perspective, Brian's the linchpin of the whole thing. I mean, it is his show, whether he wants to admit it or not. He is the beating heart of Assembly Required. We're all partners with him and come along and help out. But the stamp on AR is very much Brian and his love and passion for the property and the community.
And he's kind of like a leader in a sense. I was going to use another word, but it was a negative word, and I don't want to use that word. So I'm just going to say leader. And he brings quality, wonderful people to his organization. Yourself, David.
Yep. Dak.
I was trying to think of his name.
Yeah,
Alex,
Dak,
your son.
Alex. Yeah, Malachi.
Kobe, his wife Carrie.
Yes, absolutely. One of the great things that we found doing AR is we work pretty hard at it, and the people that come along and want to help out are generally really good people too. The people that show up early and say, hey, I want to pitch in, guys like Dak and David and Steve and Alex and Malachi the last couple of years, they have no skin in the game. They don't make any money off of this. They in a large part aren't even involved hugely in the community anyway, other than the fact that they love the show. They love the people that come into town, and they want to make sure that everyone has a good experience when they come in. But yeah, guys like David have been just so invaluable, and Dak too. They just jump in and help out wherever they can. And then we've got a lot of friends of the show that show up, like yourself this year, showing up to help out. You mentioned Bill Leach and Adam and Jason, guys like Sean Harker and Ben Conway and Marco Byrne. They're such big supporters of the show, and we couldn't do a fraction of the things that we want to do without support like that from the community.
And it definitely shows whenever you guys say, hey, can you help us with this? Like you get a dozen hands up. Yep.
Yeah.
No questions asked. They don't know what the question's going to be. Can you help? That's all it is. And that really speaks to the quality of the people asking, that you can ask someone to fall on a grenade for you and go do whatever you need them to do. And that kind of brings me to a difficult question: the
Mhm.
growing pains.
Oh yeah, there's definitely growing pains, and we felt them a lot this year. We uh as Brian and I were talking after last year's show, which we grew a little bit. We went to a much bigger venue than we're normally used to, more of a traditional conference room type of setup. And it was really good. And we actually kind of felt like we wanted to stay in that same venue. And we kind of had a snafu when we went to put the deposit down, found out they rented it out from under us to someone else. And all of a sudden we had to scramble, and we kind of looked at each other and said, you know, do we swing for the fences this year? Do we try to go to the big space that we thought we would kind of work towards over the next few years? And we contacted them, and they worked with us and said, hey, yeah, it sounds exciting what you guys are trying to do. Let's try to figure something out. And we got it to, I won't say the number we wanted budget wise, but enough to where we said let's give it a shot. And I will say, we started out with about half the space that we ended up with, and as we opened up for vendors, we just kept getting contacted by more and more vendors that said, hey, we want to come and set up, we want to be part of the show. And it forced us to grow even bigger than we were initially planning. As far as vendor spaces, we almost doubled what we did last year, which was a big deal. But what we ran into and found out this year is, as much help and as generous as people are with their time and schlepping tables and things like that, we were a little unprepared for how big it got as fast as it did. So we're trying to figure out, okay, next year, how do we manage running a bigger show, but still keeping it the way we want it to be, without it just becoming a very corporate, show floor driven type of convention.
And that's a particular point I wanted to really go over with you, because like I said, I've been to thousands and thousands of conventions all around the world, not in just this
Yeah.
country and other countries. And I've seen the way that those are organized. I've seen how they do them. I've seen different approaches and stuff like that. And I've always said to Brian, I said, Brian, this is exactly like another organization, but they do it with Nancy Drew. It's called the Nancy Drew Sleuths. Identical format, pattern, everything.
Huh.
They give stuff away, tchotchkes away. There's always a lot of artwork and stuff for signing and things like that, just like Brian does. There's dinners, there's excursions, there's everything. It's identical. And when I told him this last year, he was a little dumbfounded. He was like, what? He couldn't believe there was a Nancy Drew convention. And second, that he happened to copy, or they, no, because theirs has been around since the late 90s. So
Sure.
he inadvertently came upon the same pattern that they did for their community. And so I don't call this a convention at its core. I don't call it that. Yes, there's a dealer's room at the center of this, but I don't really believe this or consider this a convention. I think more of a community gathering.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think of it. I mean, honestly, I say there's a business side to it, and I guess if of anyone in the group, I'm probably one that pushes it a little more. I have a background in nonprofit, and I own my own business, and there's a very strong part of me that understands, in order to do the giveaways, in order to do all the activities we want, we have to have a way to pay for it. And there's an interesting balance that has to happen there, that we're kind of, I don't want to say struggling, but we're exploring how best to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And that's interesting that you said with the Nancy Drew. It doesn't surprise me that there's a Nancy Drew group. Anytime there's a fandom of anything, there's this innate desire to want to be with other people like that. I don't care what it is, breakfast cereal or Nancy Drew or G.I. Joe, you know, you want to be with like-minded people. And so I think there's a neat parallel there, that whoever is putting together that show understands the community is a part we really want to celebrate and explore and expand. And this isn't, don't get me wrong, I do not want to sound like I'm denigrating a toy show. Toy shows are great. I love them. But the goal and focus of those are usually a little different than maybe what we're trying to do. And I think there's room for all of it. I mean, I think you got to have a healthy spectrum of different people do different things. Because I'll be honest, it doesn't excite me to go to a new city and have the same experience I had in another windowless room in another city. Exactly. So it's good to have variety, I think, in experiences. Otherwise, things get stale, you know?
You're 100% correct. I know whenever I go to a convention and I go out of state, I went to Kentuckiana this year for the first time. Mm-hmm. I'd been wanting to go for a couple of years, but due to worldly situations, I wasn't able to go. Sure. And it was an interesting show. It was not the same as other shows that I had been to. Mm-hmm. And whenever I go to other shows, I always go early because I want to go to comic stores. My partner wants to go to bookstores. We want to see the city. We eat at restaurants that are part of the city. We don't go to McDonald's. Mm-hmm. We don't go to Denny's. We want to see what the city has to offer.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most appealing things about this event was you guys went to Monster Pizza. You went to Zombie Burger. You went to Up Down. You went to Mr. Magoo's. I always call it Mr. Magoo's because I can never remember the name. The place at the corner right down the hill from the convention.
Oh, Buzzard Billy's.
Buzzard Billy's. I can't remember the name of it, so I always call it Mr. Magoo's.
Yeah.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg. We go to the comic stores. We go to that dude's warehouse and find all kinds of treasure.
You're not supposed to tell that in public.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. But Jay's has been a great partner of ours from the very beginning. It's a local, I guess you call it a chain. He's got 3 stores in town, does comic, movies, records, toys. But yeah, he's a friend of both Steve and Brian's. And yeah, and that's part of the push of AR. The show's, the primary focus, but if you're, especially the people coming from out of town, yeah, we want you to have a good time. We're going to take you to places that we like or that we think are neat. We really do want you to experience Des Moines. We don't want you leaving thinking, we're all children of the corn out here.
But that's the thing, though. I don't think I would ever have gone to Des Moines, Iowa, if it wasn't
no one would.
And now I think it's actually a beautiful place. And I've considered if I ever could win that $1 billion lotto that some guy won in California the other night, I would maybe be able to pack up my house here and maybe come out there to be more involved. But unfortunately, I didn't win the lotto, so that's just the way it goes.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Maybe that when it gets to $1 billion again. Oh boy. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You guys had which you mentioned a little while ago, the cartoon and serial. You had this is a new thing this year, the custom class where you could build a hiss. I have mine being sent in the mail, or I would show it. Kobe is helping me with. Mine's is a Dreadnought type thing.
Awesome.
So there was that. There was the coloring with the children. There's the scavenger hunt for the kids.
Yep.
There was the not the auctions, the raffles.
Yep, we had Deltan doing the card game and role playing game demonstrations.
Yep,
that was kind of the new thing this year. Was that? Yeah,
because I had nobody here to play the games with. So I was like, I can't believe they got somebody to do that. That's fantastic. I sat in with Alex and Bill Leach and a couple people when we did a tour around for the RPG. And I thought, oh my God, thank God someone's trying to help us people that bought this stuff, because otherwise, what are we going to do? We're just going to sit it on a shelf. So there was so many different events, so much fun. There was so much stuff I couldn't keep up with it. I was missing things. I was coming in late.
Well, we don't want you to miss things, and we definitely try to schedule things so that you don't have to miss anything. But we are finding as we get bigger, it's one, how do you keep people engaged? And that's part of why we did the Friday night this year too, because a lot of the people that come in from out of town or the vendors, so they would have a chance to experience a few of those other things because they may be tied up or busy or attending panels or things like that during the Saturday show. But yeah, there's already talk for next year. Delt Hand, who did the role playing game demonstration, we kind of want to do maybe an after hours gaming session,
Yeah.
either on Friday night or Saturday night. They were talking that, yeah, get in a group. And so we've done. You mentioned the zombie burger and up down, which is kind of tradition. I'll be honest, those of us that live here, we're kind of burnt out on zombie burger and up down. But we get the people that come out of town; those are kind of highlights. But we're talking maybe next year we offer a variety of activities on Saturday night that if you want to play role playing games or go to the arcade or do different things, or maybe Friday night, we have something maybe in the works for dinner Friday night, but I can't reveal anything on that yet. So you'll have to stay tuned to the Facebook page early next year. Maybe we'll have some info on that, but
I know
it might be
Brian was playing
huge.
coy.
Okay.
What was that?
What's that?
I said I know Brian was playing coy with me when I was trying to get it out of him.
Yeah.
He's gonna keep it
We don't.
close to the vest, he said.
Yeah, we don't want to promise things and not be able to deliver. That's a big fear of ours. So we try to keep things pretty close to the vest until things are locked down. But there's a pretty big idea for next year for a special guest. So hopefully it pans out. If not, we'll pivot and we'll have we have no shortage of ideas on big things to do. So
Yeah, I was trying to get Brian to get Dr. Mindbender. He's like thoroughly invested in going to any GI Joe events. That guy is so funny. He would love this. I know
yeah.
it. He is
Yeah,
so
there's
engaged with talking to people and just
sure.
being part of the community. Oh man.
Yeah, there's plenty of people we'd love to get. We brought in Ron Rudat this year, who it was great. It was so fun to have Ron there, and I know Brian. I mean, that's one of his personal heroes is Ron Rudat, and I think even if you don't know who Ron Rudat is, you love Ron Rudat because he gave us the property that we love. I mean, as much as Larry Hama is one of the fathers of GI Joe, Ron Rudat's the other. While Hama gave us the story and the idea and the characterizations, Ron's the one that gave us the look. I mean, he designed pretty much what GI Joe was going to be visually, and so to have him at the 40th anniversary celebration was very special. And he said he had a great time, so we're going to take him at his word on that, and hopefully, maybe we can get him come back next year.
Well, I did an exclusive interview with him at the show, and he said he was enjoying himself. And he said that he felt that the three founding fathers are him, Larry, and Kurt Busigian. And,
Yeah, yes.
Kurt was the glue.
Yes.
And so he said it exactly the way you did. He did the illustrations, Larry did the story, and Kurt was the glue. And that's true. Those are the three trifecta of GI Joes, if you really want to get down to it and boil it down. So, but you had quite an array of GI Joe luminaries. I don't know if that's the right word.
I think it works. It works.
James Kavanaugh, the GI Joe Collector Club president.
Noted author James Kavanaugh. Noted author James Kavanaugh. Yes.
You had After Action Report, Josh Engelbin and his team there.
Yes.
You had the cool Skeletron crew, and I got me a cool deck board from them.
Yes.
That was awesome of them to donate that. And there's a lot of other people there. Dan Klingensmith, I don't have my books yet. Dan, hopefully this week, was there. There was a lot of custom folks. I can't remember the exact people that was right next to Ron Wagner, but they're a custom organization. What is their name?
I'm thinking. I got to remember a layout now. It's been 2 days now. I can't remember, but
they were the ones that had a lot of stuff in the raffle. Those little boxes that you would give out.
Who was next to Wagner? Oh, Mark II Toys. Yeah. Mark II Toys. Yeah, Mark helped us design the weapon set this year. He was a new addition this year and kind of jumped in with both feet. And I can't say enough good stuff about Mark and Mark II Design and his toy site, Mark II Toys, which is just kind of getting off the ground. He kind of launched a little before Joe Fest last year. And if you haven't checked him out, make sure to get to Mark II Toys. He's doing 6-inch scale weapon sets, but they are factory produced. They're not 3D printed. They're injection molded. They're beautiful and sturdy. But his custom work that he does, some of the vehicles he produces are insane. You saw that 2-seater shark he had that was,
Wow.
about your size, I think. So
it was. I was oogling that for quite a while, talking to them about it and their decisions and how they went about it and this and that. They wanted to make it what the toy was always advertised as, but never really was. And they said that's what they did with it. Stuff like that. But Operation Longbow was there.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember everybody that was there. Brian Kaufman was there with his custom stuff.
AVAX Lab, Kobe, he was set up again. He's always been such a good friend to the show that his store, I know it's been down for a while. They're working on getting the new website up, and hopefully it'll be up here fairly shortly. But he's another one. If you're into customization, his stuff is so good. We had Special Missions Forge, Lou out of Iowa City. He was another 3D print guy selling pack rats and chameleons.
Wow.
And they were really, really cool.
I wish I had the space in my luggage to bring that stuff back with me. I could barely fit my clothes in my luggage because I had so much stuff.
We had Peddler's Post out of Boulevard, Missouri, which they had a huge setup and brought so much stuff. They were awesome. They were really cool. We had Majestic Toys out of the Ankeny area, and I know I'm missing people. Action Fuzz doing the pipe cleaner sculptures, which was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I spoke to him. He was an interesting guy.
Yeah. It was another first time setting up. Trans Hunter out of Dayton, Ohio area. They were first time set up, and they were a lot of fun. He joined us for some of the Sunday stuff, helping schlep tables and running around to the flea market and things like that. So I know I'm missing a couple vendors in there, but we were really blessed with the group we had this year.
And on top of that, I hate to use this term, but someone coined it and told me that I was a G.I. Joe influencer. I don't believe that I am, but there were actual legitimate G.I. Joe influencers at the show. Chris McLeod from the Full Force.
Been Jason a great friend of the show for a long time. Yep.
Jason Morrell, the Order of Battle podcast.
Yep.
Tim Finn from Talking Joe, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Talking Joe, I think. Sorry, it's hard to get all these Joe podcast names correct. So a lot of, I would say, people that could influence the community, that can talk about the show and get the show a broader visual or broader spectrum of eyes on it and stuff like that, that I think could do nothing but help it grow.
Yeah, we hope so. And it's great. And we're not necessarily out chasing influencers, but if you're part of the Joe community, man, we want you out. We love all the aspects of G.I. Joe. And if you love G.I. Joe, then you're a friend, man, So we hope they come out, and we hope they have a good time. I mentioned Chris McLeod and Full Force. He's been such a great friend and partner of the show. He and Brian do a lot of collaboration on different things. And, we love the guy. Him and Kate are two of our favorite people. And, they were one of the ones very early on that were supporters of the show. We mentioned before the Skeletron crew and Ben Conway is another one that has just been a champion. One I haven't even mentioned yet, and they should have been probably the top of the list, was Joe Declassified.
Patrick Stewart. And
very early on, they were big
Neil.
supporters, and they've come every year, and they've been great.
Man, what an awesome panel that was. I so wanted all that stuff in that panel. I was like, what? Can't we just restart and just do all this stuff, please? Oh, what a panel that was.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's
Uh,
always bittersweet to see the unreleased stuff because it's like, oh, that would have been so cool.
yes.
But
A
I guess
Star
that's what
Brigade
customizers are
cartoon.
for.
A Star
What's
Brigade,
that?
a Star Brigade
Yeah.
animated series, please, please.
Well, there might be only 5 of us that want it, but I'll join in on that.
That was one of the people. Chris McLeod was one of the people I've always wanted to meet, and I had heard that he was a big supporter of the show, and I thought I was going to meet him last year. He wasn't able to make it out due to
Yeah.
whatever reason, personal reasons, but he came this year, and we did chat and we did interact a few times. He gave me a hug when I first met him. I may have been the first person that he saw at the show because I just
It might
happened to be
be.
going through the hotel lobby, and he turned around and he says, "Hey," and he came over and gave me a hug. I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that you knew who I was."
Yeah.
But I've
He's
been wanting to meet him forever and ever and ever. I've
yeah.
been following him, and that was one of the highlights of this year's show, that I got to talk to him and interact with him and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's as good as the guys you'll find in the community. Really, I'll say that about 3 dozen people here probably, but he's great. He's such fun. He brings such energy to wherever he is. So we always enjoy having him out.
So the show was Saturday. I don't even look at it as a Friday and Saturday show. I look at it as a Thursday through Sunday show, because there's things going on Thursday, there's stuff going on Sunday, and if you're lucky enough to stay over to Monday, there's still stuff going on Sunday night with the flea market or whatever.
Yep.
It's really a 4-day show for me.
Well, it seems to grow more and more, and a lot of that is we feel very strongly, and this is probably that Iowa hospitality coming out. But if you're coming in from out of town and spending money and time to come see us, we want to make sure you have a good time, and it's an excuse for us to get together, because as close as Brian and Steve and myself are, honestly, we don't hang out that much because we're busy. We got our own lives, we got our own work, we got our own families. And so AR is an excuse not just to hang out with the people from out of town, but it's a chance for us to get together and hang out too. So honestly, it's nice for me to have an excuse to say, hey, I'm going to put a pin in work for 3 days and go hang out. This year it just happened with school. We have end of semester. My kids are off school, so my son Malachi could come out and hang out the whole time. And I can't tell you the last time it was just me and him hanging out together. And so that was special for me. But yeah, Thursday night was kind of fun. We got to go out to Monsterama and go to Jay's place. And it was a lot of fun. We always enjoy it. And Sunday, we're all dragging and a little tired, but hitting a flea market and a movie and getting dinner is still pretty fun.
And that's the thing that I find interesting too, is the kids. The kids actually have fun. Normally, when I see people bring their kids to conventions, they're not really into comics. They're not really into the toys from our generation. They're into video games or Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering or whatever it is that the hot new thing is. But the kids at this show, I could tell they were excited. They were having fun. And there was a lot of them. Ben had his son, Clash. You had your son, Marco Byrne had his daughter. There was a whole gaggle of Rugrats running around doing the scavenger hunt and coloring. And I always try to win that coloring contest, but I'm just not quite good enough. This young girl beat me out this year. Talk to Ben and give him a couple of bucks for next year. Maybe I'll win.
Yeah, there you go. You may have to grease Ben's palm, but no, the coloring contest was something Ben came up with last year with Skeletron when they were in the middle of the Kickstarter and stuff, and Brian worked with them on making the color sheets. But that's been a great addition. We had Joe Customs, that crew. They haven't set up for a couple years, but we had about 3 or 4 years where they would sit down and make a custom figure with the kids. And even to this day, that is one of my favorite memories of Assembly Required, is watching the Joe Customs crew sit down with kids making O-ring customs And it's something we miss. We understand, people's lives change and stuff. We hope maybe someday to get something like that. If we're really honest, it's very expensive to find O-ring fodder right now. So we're trying to come up with something that might be similar, that's actually feasible. We have maybe an idea for next year that we'll see if we can pull off. But yeah, the kids scavenger hunt you mentioned, we early on, and this was really Steve and Brian that started, and then when I came on, it was kind of like, okay, let's push this idea on how to engage the kids. And the scavenger hunt was great because it gets them involved with the vendors. They have to go to the vendors and ask them a question and try to collect flag points this year. We had done little ribbons in the past, but we figured, flag points, that makes sense.
Perfect.
And then fill up their book, and then there's some puzzles and word searches, and we kind of make them intentionally just a little difficult, so they have to ask their mom or dad to help them with it, and that will kind of get them talking about GI Joe and different aspects. I mean, everything's very intentional. And then when they turn it in, they get a prize package where, like last year, every kid walked out with an Awe Striker. This year they walked out with a retro figure and stickers, and I'm trying to remember what else was in the pack. I can't even remember. I didn't pack them this year, so I can't remember what all went in there. But usually there's a comic book and that kind of stuff. And an added thing with Skeletron this year is they wanted to give out the little fingerboards and stickers to the kids, and we came up with an idea to, hey, let's make a secret code word so the kids have to go to the Skeletron booth and interact with Ben and Mark there to get a prize. We want to engage the kids as much as we can. One, because they're the next generation, but two, if they're engaged, mom and dad will stay longer. And if the kids are having fun, they'll stay longer and be able to experience more things. Otherwise, like you said, a kid, if they show up and there's nothing for them to do, they're ready to go in 10 minutes. And so, that was the impetus, even for like cartoons and cereal. It's like, okay, guys bringing the kids in, let's give them something to do in the morning. And, we just, all the group, and especially Brian, has that kind of laser focus on what can we do to make the experience better.
And it is a family experience. If anybody watches this, the two people that might watch this, this is a family experience. Bring your family, because you will get a full experience with all of them involved in this show. But the experience also is there for the adult, and you had a whole line of wonderful panels. You had the fan club panel, you had the declassified panel, you had the James Kavanaugh's panel about the modern 4-inch GI Joe figures, and then there was another panel and I'm missing it.
We had Dan and Ron Rudat,
that's right.
and Skinny kind of did. Yeah, they did the origin of how the line kind of started back in the 80s. So that was a great panel. I'm busy working, so I never get to sit in on the panel. So
I was at the panel. It was really good, and
good.
That's the thing. All these panels were of different aspects of the brand, and you didn't just focus on one aspect of the brand. Yeah, the show was basically a 40th anniversary show, but it covered 4-inch modern, it covered the club, it covered stuff that was never produced, it covered the 40th anniversary, obviously. So it covered many different facets of the brand, because obviously the show is a fan of GI Joe as a whole. I think that will bring in different groups of fans from different aspects. The only part we didn't have was the 60th anniversary people.
We actually talked about, do we do the 12-inch, and we haven't done much, but it was very much a Real American Hero focus, the 40th anniversary of that. So we wanted to really focus on that. And specifically with the panels, it was very intentional that we wanted to do the beginning of that classic 80s line, the end of that classic 80s line, and then the relaunch of it, because that was a continuation all the way up through the 25th anniversary stuff that whether you like it or not, it was part of GI Joe, and especially of that 3 3/4 scale story that really spans, almost 3 decades, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it.
It's true. It's definitely true because we got what the Toys R Us 50th anniversary 2 packs and a couple of
Yeah,
vehicles. So from 82 to 2019, I guess,
yeah, yeah.
basically.
I mean, it
And we're still getting 4 inch
really is
from
one of the longest.
we still got 4 inch from Walmart, and we're still getting O-ring from Hasbro. So if you want to say it's still continuing for till
Yeah,
now, you
it
could.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, and some of it's re-release stuff. But even if you look up through the 25th anniversary, that was new product year upon year upon year. That there's very few toy lines, that can match it. Power Rangers maybe and Transformers, but outside of that, when you talk action figures, GI Joes, they're the stalwart, man. They continue to put out new product.
I was talking to I can't remember who it was. It was another guy from another toy company, but he
Mhm.
says the 4 pillars of modern toys are GI Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Power Rangers.
Yeah,
Those
you could argue
of
He-Man in there,
boys.
maybe. Yeah,
Well, and
uh,
He-Man, I guess.
yeah,
But
you
He-Man's had
could throw them
a
in
very
there.
spotty
Yes,
history.
you're right. They're like high points throughout it, but yeah, I would agree. Those you can maybe, I don't know, for sure. Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. They're the dominant one from the late '80s on. And then I personally feel, you throw GI Joe in there with them as being the constant presence in the toy aisles.
For boys'
You might throw
toys.
something like Pokemon, but that's a multimedia type brand.
Yeah. For boys' toys, you could also maybe use Batman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, if you talk superheroes, and you'd be remiss to put Star Wars in there, but that's another one that it it had a long run, but it seems to spike depending on the media
Yeah.
at the time. So yeah, you can't forget Star Wars. They're usually the big guy on the block, anyways.
Oh
So
yeah, we wouldn't have
and
GI
recently,
Joe. We
no,
wouldn't have
not like we know it,
yeah,
anyways.
not the O-ring new resurgence. You're right about that. So
Yeah.
is there any sneak peeks that you can give me for to entice some of the people to get their airplane and hotel stuff in now? Well, we don't have dates, obviously, so forget that. But
Yeah, I mean, we have general dates. We usually shoot for that first weekend in November. It has slid one where there usually it's after Halloween, but before the second Saturday. So it will most likely be then, unless something. But I would, don't book anything yet. But if you're looking to carve out time, that's generally where it'll be. And we usually do a date release early summers when we try to do it, when we get uh, honestly, it's when we get a venue contract in hand is when we usually release the date, and when we have the hotel block booked. So be looking early summer for that. It might coincide. We are planning on doing another online event. We'll see if we can get it to come together, but hopefully in the springtime. Be looking for an announcement on that, maybe after the first of the year. As far as teasers, we did announce a theme kind of at the end, and it's actually the theme we were going to use this year until we decided to pivot to the 40th, because honestly, we were a little disappointed that Hasbro didn't do more with the 40th anniversary.
yeah,
We feel like it's a big deal.
same.
And outside of a little bit of packaging, not much has been done. So we really wanted to do it. And I think it was good. It was a good move that Brian really pushed for it, and we went with it. But so we've actually been working on next year's show really since last year's show, and it'll be Dreadnought theme. And so we're going to explore everything we can with the Dreadnoughts. There will probably be more than a little bit of cold slither that gets injected into this. Rock music and punk and Dreadnoughts, and Brian's already begun working on some of the art style samples, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Dreadnoughts give us the ability to really cut loose a little bit and get creative. So yeah, we hope everyone will join us for that. Just a reminder, I guess I'll put out there, if you weren't able to make the show, we got a lot of feedback on some of the merch stuff we did, and people want to know, oh, put it up online, we'll order it. We had to wait until after the show, but it is being put up in the store. And actually, I don't know if this is live for how many ever people are watching. Gear kits and t-shirts are live right now, and the rest of the merch will be up by the end of the week. So if there's anything you wanted that you saw at the show and weren't able to make it, you can go online to the codenameiowa.com store and start putting in orders for merch from this year. So if you didn't get a chance to get out to the show, we did have some merch left, so you can order that. But looking forward to next year, like your question asked, we're going to really try hard to do both events next year, the online armor and assembly required. So yeah,
I'm
give
looking
us a couple more weeks and maybe we'll have some more info.
I'm really looking forward to it because I was talking to Brian last year and I kind of got a inside track on it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm going to talk about the kit, which I forgot to mention. Brian sending mine because it was so big, I couldn't fit it in my luggage, people. He added so much big stuff. He had all 13 original file cards with his artwork, beautiful artwork. On this year's calendar, beautiful artwork again on the calendar. The set is like bigger than my screen. I can't show you how big it is because it wouldn't fit in my luggage. It is the scene in, I believe, G.I. Joe #1, where they go into the exercise room. You see this exercise room with people doing exercises and people are lifting weights. And there's a little pathway where Hawk walks down it. And he's like trying to pick out who he's going to put on the team, or he's going to send out a mission or whatever it was. That scene basically come to life in a play set, which is totally awesome.
It was a lot of fun. It was, in some respects, it was a lot less challenging than the water tower we did last year. The water tower was just such a unique design challenge for Brian. And I guess I'll take the blame on this one because I think I came up with the initial idea of, hey, let's make a water tower like they did in the comics, Storm Shadow's Hideout.
But no one's
and
done
initially we thought, oh, we'll do it out of cardboard and 3D printed parts. And I said, oh, Brian, I think you can do this all out of your cardboard paper. And, all credit to him. He figured it out. And we had to go through a lot of prototypes. That said, this one, from a design aspect, it's mostly boxes, and that's not to diminish anything design-wise that Brian did. But the challenge this time was we wanted to make the diorama and the box combine in a way that it was all one piece, that there was essentially no wasted parts anywhere. And Brian came up with the idea of that, how to do the walkway coming out of the box, and then the 2 floor pieces that fit into it, that makes really, space-wise, it's almost double the size of the motor pool we did a couple years ago.
I have that. That's
and then the pieces
too.
Yeah, that one, they're all great. Brian does such a great job on all of it. But there's the shooting range and some of the obstacles for the obstacle course. And the idea behind those were you could even move those off to the sides of the play set, so it's even bigger, and you could add your own pieces in there to even make that obstacle course bigger. One of the thoughts we had was maybe taking like Ostriker tires or tires from another vehicle and making the little running course, or you put a twine in there to have a tug of war, or the Pugil sticks on a platform type of thing. But we wanted to make it very playable this year, that you could design it and move stuff around and really make it however you wanted. So it was a lot of fun watching that come together. Brian, once again, kind of a mad genius when it comes to that design stuff, and especially when it comes to boxes. I mean, that's his forte. Not to say, I don't mean that to say boxes are boring, but he takes a boring idea of a box and can make something great out of it. And it's a lot of fun to watch him really go through some of the revisions on that. So, yeah.
I can't wait to get mine in the mail because I want to do a review of it, because I did a review of the water tower last year. And I just love these things. I think if we keep going, if we keep going, we got the motor pool, we got the exercise room. You know, I think we should just go floor by floor and be able to put the whole thing together and have this big, huge thing, and we can just call it the pit. Brian, you listening?
Yeah, there was actually thoughts on. We initially did think, how do we make this so it's expandable and whatever. What we decided, rather than doing, and that's not to say we might not tackle something like that in the future, but we really thought about shelf displays, and that if you had a multi-level shelf,
Yep,
that it would look like the pit then as you went down.
that's exactly right.
And if you look at the design of the pit, not all the rooms are necessarily the same size, and so the idea was to fit different things, and a lot of the rooms are designed either to be or will be designed to be back to back like that or side to side and kind of match up a little bit. But really the idea was with shelf displays that if you had like a bookcase, you could make it look like the pit.
And then the last one, you could do the motor pool on the very top, the whatever.
The chaplain's assistant motor pool, the Quonset
Yes.
hut.
Yep. And have a secret passage.
All of this has been talked about, and there's a number of things. We haven't done a bunk room yet. We haven't done a mess hall. We haven't done the one of the things we talked about that we didn't do. We're waiting for someone to go get like a fishbowl to do that water bubble thing that's in the training room. There's a lot of directions. We got plenty of years that we can fill with different dioramas, and that's not even talking doing non-pit stuff like what we did with the water tower, and going forward other things that might happen there.
I think you just coined the new invention, build a headquarters.
There you go. We'll have a collect and connect headquarters, right? Yeah. We'll have to come up with some kind of neat marketing phrase or something for it.
And that's a way to bring people to the show. Say every year, if you want a piece of the pit, you have to come.
That's been kind of the idea behind the gear kits, is we wanted them not necessarily where you had to collect them all, but if you did collect them all, there would be some crossover in there, at least with the AR kits, and the armor kits, that those dioramas. That's not to say like the water tower is kind of its own thing. There's a good chance the Dreadnought themed one might be its own thing. We have some ideas. There's nothing firm on that yet. We do know, I think, what the armor kit will be, the armor one, because we have the theme. That's another one. We've had it laid out since last year, but we decided this year we had too much going on not to do armor this year. But we've been sitting on a really good idea, we think, for that one for a year now. So
I have a feeling I know what it is, and just like I said,
we've told a few people.
I can't spoil what I think the kit's going to be, because that's something me and Brian's talked about for a couple of years. And
yeah,
oh boy, it's a doozy, fellas. You guys want to come next year? That's for sure. Get that. First in, first out type of deal. So Brian,
there you go.
Brian, I want to thank you for a wonderful experience this year, as last year was. I want to say thank you to all the folks that contributed to making the experience as wonderful as it was. Brian, Travis, David, Dak, Alex, your son, Malachi, Kobe, Carrie, whoever else lifted the table or chair or was involved in making this one of the best experiences every year. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, and I would echo that, because I have as much fun at the show, and really it comes down to the many hands that make light work, and the village coming together to put on the show. As much as I put in, and especially as much as Brian puts in, he's the main driving force behind it all. It doesn't happen without all the help. And we know that 100%. And it's not that we ever want to get to the point that we take that for granted. That the community that comes together and rallies, and I think that's a large part of what makes the AR experience very special is that it really is community at its core from every level. It's the fans coming together to work, to party, to celebrate, to just enjoy what it is to be community. So thank you for coming. Once again, you travel a long distance. Thank you so much for making that trip.
It's my pleasure when it comes to fellow-minded people like myself. I know it's the love. I wouldn't do what I do. I wouldn't go out of my way because, like you said earlier, it's a schlep and it's
Yeah,
financially difficult. But I do it because I love it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. And
sure.
that's the takeaway from this whole thing is the love of it. Also, and I totally forgot to mention, I got a
Uh-huh.
cool bottle of Yojo Cola and and a miniature
Well,
Yojo Cola to go with my 6-inch figures.
yeah, you're gonna see Yojo Cola pop up quite a bit here, I think, in the future. That not to take up too much time, but that was one of those aha kismet moments when we were talking about different things because we did the bubblegum giveaway at the dinner last year, and we were really sitting there. It's like, all right, we that was really fun. We should do something. We thought about, oh, let's do a burger. I've done a burger for Zombie Burger before. We thought about went through some different things, and then we went into what about Yojo Cola? No one's done that, and then we got to looking, and no one owned the copyright or trademark on it. And so Brian went down that road and said, let's do it. And so we're exploring. We did a small run with bottles and labels, and we did up a couple hundred bottles and sold, gave them out at the dinner to everyone that came to dinner, and then we sold a few 4-packs and a few singles. And we're actually looking on how to expand upon that. If you're a reasonably bright person, you can probably deduct what we'll be bringing next year to a Dreadnought theme show, but you'll probably see some Yojo Cola offerings between now and then too. So just watch our Facebook page at codenameiowa.com or Codename Iowa Facebook page or the website at codenameiowa.com, and we'll try to release stuff as we go.
I had to drink mine, unfortunately, because I had to bring it on a plane. But it was
Yeah.
actually quite a unique flavor. Brian said it was from a company in another state next to
Yeah,
Iowa.
Omaha.
Omaha.
Just across the border in Omaha. Yeah, it's a local bottler, and it's a natural cane sugar, not corn syrup soda. We thought it was pretty good.
At least this one was close by to me where I could actually show it off.
Well, there you go.
Where is it? Get over there.
Yeah, those
Yojo
were fun to
Cola
make.
6-pack for my 6-inch figures because I thought that bubble gum was brilliant last year. I was like,
it was
wow.
A lot of fun. And it's funny how it's that small, stupid little add-on piece that we get really excited about. It's like, oh, that's genius. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And we love posters, we love figure kits, we love all that stuff, but it's that little thing that kind of comes out of nowhere. And we know we've usually got it good when we start bouncing back and forth really fast. Brian and I, it's like, oh yeah, let's do that. No, then we'll do that. How about if we do this then? And it just kind of exploded, and it literally took us about 20 minutes to come up with the idea. And when it just comes together real easy like that, usually we feel very good about it. And that the bubblegum and the soda both were kind of that way. Once we hit the idea, we knew that's it. We got it.
You guys are like big kids. It's fun.
We are, yeah, very much big kids, and we get ourselves into trouble because there are items we get excited about that we say, oh, let's make it. We're going to do it. And then we found out, oh, maybe we were the only ones excited about this idea. So
that's a shame.
It's a shame, but it happens. It's okay. It's all fun.
Because I loved the Ninth Man figure from last year. I was like, oh my God, a Ninth Man 4-inch. I had to have that. Was like the first thing I bought, I think, last year when I saw that you guys had made that. I was like, holy crap. I don't know how well he did, but I love him.
Yeah, it's one of the figures. They've kind of had diminishing returns over the years, which is kind of why we quit doing it. And I think a part of it is it's a high expense to return, just looking at it from a business standpoint. But it is so easy for people to get a hold of, you know, Marauder Task Force figures, which are great to make their own customs with. And the customization has become such an integral part, I think, of the community now that there's no need for it really when it comes down to it. If you want an Nth Man figure, it's pretty easy to go make an Nth Man figure on your own. So it was, while they're really fun to make and we had fun doing them, it was one of those that I think the community can meet that need other places. Let's focus on the stuff that we can do that will meet a need that isn't being met. Things like Yojo Cola or Cell Pop card backs. You know, we want to do the stuff no one else is doing.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join me tonight, Travis. It has been a pleasure talking to you and reminiscing about a wonderful
Yeah.
experience and wonderful weekend again. And I look forward to having another wonderful experience next year. And I've spoken to you through the year, anyways, regardless. So I'm sure I'll do that again this year. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Anytime. Once again, hit up, if I do my sales pitch, hit up codenameiowa.com if you want some of the merch that you weren't able to get. And then stay tuned to our Facebook page and our Instagram, Codename Iowa. And you'll be able to stay on top of all the activities and fun stuff we got coming up for next year.
All right. We'll talk to you next time, folks.